My name is Celine Song, and I lead Past Lives and Materialists. And I'm here to introduce the amazing star of this film, Jacob Elordi, to stage. I feel so lucky and happy to be here on a Tuesday evening in my favorite theater in the whole city. I know how uncomfortable seats are. Jacob, I don't know if you've sat in these seats before. I would say it's also the least comfortable seats in New York City.
No, I've only ever walked past. Like I come past and get the books, and then I always have something to do every single time we're in New York. So I've not seen one film here.
Yeah.
Which, don't put that on the internet, please.
Well, the programming here is so amazing. I feel like I usually like a really comfortable seat, but I feel like I come sit here because the movies and selections are so good. Anyway.
Some people argue that the seat should be uncomfortable when
Yes.
you watch a film, though, because it demands your attention, and because your ass is sore and your back is sore, so you can only escape into the movie. You can't like sit there and eat chicken strips and be like, it's fine.
I've never heard anybody snore in retrospect.
Which is a positive.
It's like really positive.
Yeah, especially when you're making long movies like this. Thanks for not sleeping.
But I feel so happy and lucky to get to talk to you about this film. I know, I'm sure you've talked about this film a lot, but I'd love to know what it was like for you to meet Guillermo and talk about this role and to get this role and to start working on this movie.
Yeah, I mean, when you work in the movies, or if you like movies, there's a list of people that you want to know. I remember when I was auditioning, I was telling you before, I auditioned for Past Lives and didn't hear anything. but there's people, but like you were one of them. It's like there's people that you want to work with, and then there's also the Guillermo del Toros who it feels like they're ever present, like they've been around since before cinema or something. So you never really dream of getting to work with those people. You always think you can just be watching their films or like watching other people make their films. So when his phone call came through for me to make the film that he's wanted to make for 50 years, it was like getting shot in the face or something. Like it was like everything you've ever wanted, and you all of a sudden don't know what to do with it when you get handed it. I think I've said I wasn't afraid in this press tour. I was so afraid. Like I was so fucking scared because it felt like this was the kind of thing that I've been banging on about for years that I wanted to make. And then finally somebody handed it to me, and I was like, I have no idea what to do. Like, I don't know how to do this for you, you know. So there was a lot of terror in meeting him, and then you meet him, and he's anything that you've seen on the internet or read from him is absolute truth. I mean, you would know that. I mean,
Absolutely.
He gives himself wholly to everybody. Filmmakers, grips, anyone that wants advice on movies or a story about movies, Guillermo was the guy for it.
Yeah, and I always say when I grow up, I want to be like Guillermo.
I want to be like Guillermo, yeah.
Because it's like he's so full of like his love of cinema, but it's also like it's not full of crap. You know?
No, and it's also at the same time as being incredibly meticulous, it's incredibly childlike. It's this, you can tell it's the same passion that he was struck by when he was 8 years old. It's the same intensity, the same thing, you know. So there's an incredible joy in it. It's not like he's so specific, but he's also loose and enjoying himself and enjoying the process or something.
Well, I feel like he was talking to me about how it's the movie that he feels he was put on earth to make. And there are some movies that I feel that way about, like the movies I want to make. And I feel like I so connected with that. And he was like, I just know that I've been put on earth to make this movie. And I feel like part of it is like, when we're talking about the creature, which is I always talk about it as it is the soul of the film and the soul of the story. You're like, well, it must have been such an amazing, inspiring thing to meet somebody that we all know was meant to make this movie, and for you to be like, okay, I'm walking into like this complete platonic thing, this thing where I'm gonna walk into something that's been this person's dream and it's now my dream. Yeah.
I think that's what makes him such a true artist, is because you could feel the engine of the dream that he's had because he talks about being 8 years old and seeing Boris Karloff the first time he backs through the door and turns around in the James Whale film, and he tells this great story of how he thought he saw Jesus for the first time. He's like, that was, he'd just been to church, and then he went to the cinema to watch it, and he saw the Messiah on screen. And it sounds cute, but the truth is, when we were shooting the film, that spiritual undertow was so strong, and I knew that what we were doing was from the passion of an 8-year-old, like from pure imagination. And it did, he, even if it is a bunch of woo-woo or whatever, he makes you feel like you're going after the Holy Grail when you're making a film. He makes you believe that there is something at the end of the rainbow, and it's a noble thing to go after it, and to put everything into going after that singular thing. And that's a really special skill to have, to be able to sort of move, because we had a crew of like 600 people, and every single person, it felt like we were all part of the same vision, which he had been conjuring and stewing and bubbling in a pot since he was 8 years old. He said it was like his Mexican magic or his Mexican mushrooms that he gave to the crew every day. But I think there's something really important to note about that kind of passion, an enduring passion that lasts 50 years. Something has to come out of that, the force of that.
Well, there's something divine in that.
There is, and it can get kind of hippy-dippy, but there was a point, because I had about 4 weeks to prepare this because an actor had dropped out, and I got to Toronto after shooting. I was shooting something, and then I came the day I finished that and started shooting. I went into pre-production with Guillermo. And he came up to me one day and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Don't worry, you know how to do this." And then he just walked away. And I was like, fuck. Like, this is one of those movies. Like, fuck, I'm gonna have to be, more artsy than I am or something. But then every day on set, like, he was right. And whether that's an incredible director who's so detailed that you can't fall, but it really felt like he just knew. He just had it. He just knew it was going to work. He was so confident.
Well, I wonder if it's that he knew or if he just believed in you, right? Because I think that what's amazing about making something that is brand new, which is any creative process, you don't know you have it until you have it, right? So it's never going to be, there's no way to actually know except to believe. So it must be just a great deal of faith in you.
I hope so, but also in himself. Like, he's so kind and so open to everyone's opinion, but he's so singular and specific. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing.
A dream.
But even just outside of Frankenstein movies, I have not met someone yet who has given so much of himself to movies. Like, his whole life. It's no joke. You go to his house and it's like, fuck. Like, you should look at something else. Like, this is crazy.
There's nothing else.
There is nothing else in his house but movies. Everywhere you go is just cinema.
Well, I would love to know, we've been talking about all the ways that, Guillermo has been preparing all his life to make this film. I wanted to know, like, what it was like for you to prepare this film. Were there books you read? And you're a huge reader and a cinephile, so, was there movies that you were watching, certain performances you were looking to? Or was it something where you were looking to inspiration from, for example, your co-star, Oscar and Guillermo? Like, was it something that was more in the day of?
For me, I had, it was strangely a much more like isolating, sort of singular process, because once I got the part, I was shooting this other role that I had to lose a bunch of weight for, and we were doing this these scenes in a prisoner of war camp. And the contrast in the roles was sort of so big that I had no idea what to do. So I kind of put all my preferences away and built this kind of scrapbook thing, and just tried to like strip myself back to a point of like, I changed when I would wake up or when I'd go to sleep, or the times that I would eat, or how I'd experience the day, because everything to this creature is brand new. And it's strangely a really difficult thing to find things new again. Especially, I'm 28 now, so I've seen a few things in my lifetime. I'm familiar with like sunlight and water and food and love, and so I had to kind of get to a kind of primal state. And once I got to that place, I remember going to Guillermo. I was like, so I feel good. I feel raw. I feel like I can do this thing. Do you think I should watch other Frankenstein films? And he looked at me like I was the stupidest person on the planet. And he was like, it's a movie. He's like, it can't fucking hurt you. Like, and then I just dove into everything. Any movie. I mean, I was watching Scooby-Doo to prepare for this. Like, I found every Frankenstein reference in Scooby-Doo and went through and watched them and watched how the cartoons moved. And it was kind of just like one of those moments where you just accept everything. I just opened up and accepted every bit of stimulus and took it as if it was for the role. You know.
I love that he just knew that you were quite robust.
Yeah, he
didn't say like, you're so fragile, don't watch a thing. It was like, no, watch everything, do what you want.
Yeah, he never treated me like I was fragile. I remember there's a point where I must have been sitting in my chair after all the smoke up, just like this. And he looked at me and went, hey. And I looked up and he was like, I'll tell you when you can break.
Oh.
And I went, okay. And then the movie finished and he said, you can break now.
I think that's love though.
It really
you know?
does. It's kind of like, you know, you're working with him made me think of and doing this film made me think of my dad a lot. And that's exactly how I was raised. And it prepared me for this film to be able to do the makeup, you know, being raised by my father in the way that he raised me. And it was this attitude of, it's not tough love, it's I know what you can do, and you're okay. Yeah. There's so many times we think that we're not okay, or like, I'm at my breaking point, or I'm stressed to a point, and you're really not. You know, and you sometimes need someone who really loves you to say, just push that little bit more, or just go to that next little place, trust me. And actually my mum said that to me too at one point. I called her halfway through filming and I was like, I don't know, because my hours were all over the place and I don't know what to do. And she just said, don't let yourself watch this movie in a year's time and think that you left something. Yeah. She was like, because she was like, yeah, it was literally like that kind of thing for my own, because she was like, because you're going to be fucking unbearable to be around. She knew, she's like, if you watch that film and you've left something. Yeah,
but that's love.
I don't want to deal with it. Again, it was love.
She's looking out for you. She's like, I know you.
Exactly.
If you don't leave it out on the field.
She was like, please for us, leave it on the field. You know.
You're going to regret it, and that you can't take back.
No.
Well, I mean, I think about that too, because I feel like it's also, I think about like the way that artists are, like we get sometimes doing creative work get treated like we're quite fragile, or people assume fragility. But the truth is that there's some of it where you're like, well, this is the one place where you have a second take, right? Or like, no, you can edit. There's a way that you can, there's so much safety in being able to like try things, and if you know, like if a surgeon can't just try things, right? Like it's a life or death. How amazing that in movies, like it's like, you know, let's say you had a tape where you were trying something wild. You tried it, everybody was like, not great, and then you can do it again.
That's a testament to Guillermo, because there's so many takes I think that could be in this film that I'm very lucky are on the cutting room floor, because there was a lot of experimenting physically and vocally, and it's
But I mean, that makes me think though, I feel like, what was sort of the process of like discovering your physicality? Because I feel like, I think you're right. I think about this all the time, where I'm like, for something to be so great, the person who's making it has to be fearless about it being potentially terrible, right? You have to be so ready to walk the line, otherwise you're never gonna make something that is truly great. You're gonna make something that's okay, right? So I wanted to know, like, because of how specific the physical language of the feature is, I wanted to know, what was the development like, and was it something that you were experimenting with? Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, immediately I had, when I read the screenplay the first time, it was very apparent to me that there were 3 stages of the script. There was an infant, and then there was a child into teenager, and then there was this kind of adult consciousness thing at the end, this kind of understanding of who he was and forgiveness and everything. So I started, Guillermo gave me a baby development book, and it was from the ages of 1 to 8. It was so specific, and it was so helpful. And then I started getting friends to send me pictures of their babies, and videos of their babies. And then eventually I just looked, I'm very close with my dog, and
That's such a sweet way to say I love my dog.
I'm very close with her, and she was with me the whole time. And the way, there's a blink that happens in the film that's like this slow blink when he's understanding things, and that came straight from my dog, and so much of the physicality came from my dog, because I was kind of going troppo in an apartment just with her, like talking to her, And then I had basic ideas based on that he's comprised of these different parts, and the way his synapses fire. His brain is not communicating with his foot, it's communicating with somebody else's foot, and what does it feel like when things move sort of opposite of each other. And then Guillermo had this idea for me to study Buto, which is this Japanese dance.
I know all about Buto.
Oh,
I studied at Columbia.
Right, so you really studied Buto. Yeah. Well, it came after the nuclear bombs, and it was a way of expressing that kind of agony and that pain and that suffering. It's sort of the dance of reanimating a corpse. So I had a great teacher in Buto, and that helped me, isolate.
Did you take classes?
Yeah. We took classes and went through these kind of, it's very elemental, and you go through like the feeling of fire in your left knee, and your left foot is a steam train, and you walk around the room and try and apply all these different things to different parts of your body. And that was a really sort of instrumental thing in figuring out what the kind of inner language of the physicality felt like. And then a lot of it was just like throwing yourself off the edge of the cliff and seeing what happens. Like there was so much discovery while we were filming, because we didn't have the luxury of time. And just luckily I think from watching Guillermo's films since I was 14, I kind of knew how his creatures moved, and I knew how his narrative moved, so I feel like in a way I've been preparing for much longer than the actual time. There was this was the first thing I saw, because I remember when he stood up from the table, he did this and he put it behind him. But the way he got up, like, I think it's Doug Jones.
Yeah, you've seen Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth, the pale man, the cinema crowd, they're like, yeah. I fuck with Pan's Labyrinth. But the way he gets up at the table, the way he moves down is very staccato, and the way he chases her is staccato, and so you get the idea of how his creatures move from his films.
Well, I think that's the first time that I think I had a nightmare about the creature forever.
Yeah, I saw it on the back of a DVD the first time at Blockbuster. I didn't get it out. I didn't rent it the first couple of times, but I remember being just petrified how sallow that skin was.
Yeah.
And the way he had these little fat rolls.
Yeah.
That, it was all uncomfortable. Everything was wrong about it, but it was also something beautiful about that dining table. And
beautiful.
Yeah.
It is so terrifying, and you feel so much for that creature.
She dies.
Yes.
Sorry, spoiler, but she dies.
You spoiled too much.
Sorry, it's been up for a very long time, and that's on you.
It's amazing. But it's amazing what you should watch regardless of knowing what happens to people. But I think about that film because I think this is making me think though, I feel like with the same thing with the creature, which is that like, I would say that more than the book, what Guillermo's vision of the creature is one that is quite a bit more loving, and there's a lot more empathy and sympathy there than I think I would say when I would read the book. Because I feel like, and I think that feels connected to the creature we're talking about in Pan's Labyrinth. Because even then, you could feel that that creature was sad.
He's stuck. He feels stuck in that scene.
Yeah, he's blind.
He's blind.
Without his
He just wants to eat the little girl. Like, what's the big deal?
I know.
No, but Guillermo does that, and he empathizes so well. He did me a massive solid in terms of audiences going with the creature, because in the book, I think the creature strangles Victor's little brother and enjoys it. I think there's a line that says, I loved watching the life leave his eyes, and he's like 8 years old or something like that. So he did me a service by taking that out, because you don't have to convince the audience.
Well, I think
so
it's about, I mean, my joke about Frankenstein, not Guillermo's version, but it's always like, it is the biggest movie about grudge. Like, it's about the need, it's about like just hating hating this guy so much. But in this film, I was like, well, this movie has become a bit about fatherhood, which is why
he's looking for an answer. I mean, that's why he follows him. I feel like in Guillermo's film, it doesn't feel like it's to punish Victor.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know that he's teaching him a lesson. I think he really is just like genuinely up. It's the Milton question, the Paradise Lost question. I need you to follow me. I need to follow you to the end of the earth, and you need to tell me why I'm here.
Yeah.
You need to tell me why you did this, which is kind of like if you were born, which we all have been. There is that moment where you go,
Well, it's interesting because there's always a question of consent. It's like, well, we didn't ask.
I didn't ask, and then you're supposed to be grateful.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to behave accordingly and do all these things, you know, yeah.
Well, it's also funny because I was just thinking about it. It's like, well, this really is. It really feels to me like a woman wrote it, because it's about like a man who can't give birth, who can't be a mother, so he just decided to be just like he decided to make something. Right.
It's like, let me cut the lady out of it. Let me do this perfectly the way it should be done. Look how
and I'll make it up with the dead people.
Yeah.
And
That didn't go. So
yeah, but I think that's why it's like a becoming about fatherhood, and it's like it really is about your relationship with Oscar too. I mean, Oscar's character Frankenstein.
I mean, Guillermo said, because he's been trying to make this movie for 50 years, he said, essentially, in 20 years seriously as a filmmaker. And he said he couldn't have made it unless he was a father. Because he originally started writing this sort of, I guess, about his life without his father, and then he became a father.
Yeah.
And the whole tone of the film shifted, and the idea of the film shifted, because that's what it is at the end, right? In that forgiveness scene, it is the father and son conversation that, like, you never really get to have, because we're also sort of afraid to have to even. Guillermo said, like, the most important thing is beginning the conversation, because there is no real answer at the end of this either. He's kind of still in an abyss, but the fact that were able to have the conversation, and were able to hear each other, or engage in the process of beginning to hear each other, that's what I think is the important thing from the film.
Because what can be the answer? It's like, why did you make me, right? Because the only answer I can think of is because the world is beautiful and life is worth living, and isn't this nice that we're here? But in the absence of that, I think it's really hard to find an answer to that. Because what can you say? Because you're here because I love you. If you can't say that, right, then what can you possibly offer your child?
What's really interesting, I think, about the film too, though, is that the creature, Guillermo was so persistent on the creature moving the ship at the end. That's supposed to be the moving of the generations of trauma and all these things, and that somehow organically in the process of learning what pain is, learning what love is, learning what he's lacking in his life, he makes the decision to liberate these people. The ship is sort of like meant to be all of us and everyone, and somehow in the nothingness that he's faced with, he decides to free people, to help people, and that's a kind of divine notion in itself. And I still think about the film, and I don't know how the creature comes to that point. I don't know if that's just like a Del Toroism that he's put in at the end, but that's a bit that I can't figure out, like how he comes to that conclusion after forgiveness, to liberate everybody.
Well, I don't know, but I also don't know how one person comes to forgive someone. I feel like when we talk about forgiveness, sometimes I'm like, well, how does one process everything you feel, including so much anger from the creature, and then how do you get to the place where you forgive? And you're like, unfortunately, the only thing you can do is to do it.
You have to make the action. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying before, is how, because I agree, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to forgive you for nothing. But Guillermo, like, he says the important thing is, well, because me, I'm like, if you did it, you did it. It's hard to forgive you once you did it. Like, you did it. Like, you wouldn't have done it.
Your sign is
I am against you.
That's fine. That's fine.
But like, if you weren't going to do it, don't do it.
Sorry,
But Guillermo said the most important thing is the conversation, no resolution, the ability to actually start the dialogue and seek the dialogue out. I don't know what that does for people.
Yeah, but I feel like it's like, to me, it's like, I mean, now we're talking about just like forgiveness, but I think we just watched a movie about forgiveness, so I feel like some of it is like, it's a way to free himself too, because it's like he can be angry for the rest of his life, right? Or he can just give no choice.
Guillermo has this fantastic thing that he's like, Guillermo.
That's what it is.
But he told me so much
Guillermo.
stuff, and he said there's a specific bit in the film when the sun rises on the creature, and he accepts the world as it is. He said when Guillermo's father got kidnapped, and he says he was torn up and all these things, and he would watch the sun rise and set, and he realized that the sun didn't care about his grief,
I
and
heard
that's why
this.
that's in the film, and there is something beautiful about that too. The son doesn't care if the creature forgives him or walks alone for the rest of his life,
Well,
but he accepts it.
because he says like yeah, I think what he was really talking about is like it's like, well, every day he's like, I am looking at the sun keeps rising and I'm so sad, the sun keeps rising, why don't you like like you know, give a crap about how I feel. And then one day he realized it's like, well, I'm clearly not giving a crap about what the sun is doing. Every day it's rising, yeah. And I think there's something that is so like beautiful about that revelation, which I think is what the creature is going through. Even though I know, I agree, I'm petty as hell, man. Like, I don't like forgiving things. I'm like, I know your name. I know what you did.
I know what you
I
did.
know what you did.
It's
And remember
fine.
forever.
Yeah, it's fine.
Now you're nice
I'm not
to me.
gonna. My dad told me. He said, always forgive, never forget. And
What sign is your father?
I couldn't even. I don't know. He's signless.
Thank you so much for talking. This is such a great, you know, anything else you want to say as your last thing?
And just honestly, thanks for coming out and seeing a 35mm print of a movie that we made. That's fucking